What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we have a Versus, so we're here on the public channel. Please feel free to check out the Patreon if you want to see the other Sit Down Saturdays. We just recently covered some kind of Make Toys drama that's out there in the mix, if you're interested in hearing a little bit about that. Big tinfoil hat stuff, but otherwise, yeah, we're going to continue to do the Versus here. And today we're going to compare the Transbots Stax with the Fanstoys tubes, which is a battle of the pipes, so to speak. Also, it's good to keep in mind that Stax came out like 8 or 9 years ago as we compare these, which I think makes it even more interesting. And to be honest with you, I would give, if I had, like, and I guess I do have ultimate control, but if I was going to be completely biased in this stuff, I would give Fanstoys 1 bonus point off rip just for it being a unique mold for that character, which, as you know, is very rare to get. Also, a little bit of house cleaning to the Patreon folks. The DMH books open on September 1st, so you can order whatever you want from September 1st through the end of the month. That's exclusively to Patreon supporters. Coasters, blankets, posters, prints, mugs, bottle openers, whatever you want. The collected volumes of books, whatever you want. Before we get started on this Versus, there's one thing I do want to mention, and that is the sticker on the back of the windshield that I didn't notice at first upon review, which I think does say something about it. My general thoughts on it are it does kind of seem like a cop-out specifically for Fanstoys. However, I'm happier that it's there than if it weren't. And I'm not because it's cartoon accurate. I don't give a shit about cartoon accuracy, really, but I do care about what looks good. And I like that lighter color behind the head helps the head pop, so to speak, on a shelf and just in general. So I'm happy that it's there, although I do think they took the cheap way out. And with that, I think we can go ahead and compare these two figures. It's cool because we compared the Bad Cube Huffer with the Fanstoys Huffer, and now we'll compare the Transbots Stax with the Fanstoys Stax, and we compared the Bad Cube Huffer to the Transbots Huffer, so it's all kind of covered here, which is pretty sweet. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started, and you know where we like to start, with accessories. And accessories wise, the Transbots comes with 2 guns. The Fanstoys comes with the extra eyes and extra head and the Metroplex transformation cog, which everybody left me notes about in the comments, and let me be the first to say, I still don't care.
Like, you think it was gonna change my life.
So, the way we usually do this is just a number-based system. It's 3-2, giving Fanstoys the point for accessories. However, with gimmicks, I have to give it to Transbots. They have the gimmicks where you could take the side mirrors off and add them to the forearms. It can also be plugged into Optimus Prime's trailer. I know that's intended for Huffer, I get it, but it still works, and therefore it's still a gimmick, so I have to give the gimmick to Transbots. Moving on to build and materials. The Transbots is not built well. It's never been built well. It's always been one of my biggest issues with this guy. I guess it's this arm. Which arm is it? The backpack, the hips, the ball, like the ball joints here, or I guess they're technically universals, but, oh, I thought that, oh, maybe it was Huffer, that the arms were super loose, but these are still a little bit loose, and the hips are super loose. Meanwhile, the Fanstoys is all tight, arguably too tight, but will loosen up over time. Materials, the Fanstoys plastic feels better. It has the die-cast added in, etc., etc. Also, it has rubber tires as opposed to just plastic tires there. And hardware, we have to give it to Fanstoys as well because it does have ratchets in the hips, whereas the Transbots has ratchets nowhere. And actually, does it have it in the knees? I don't think it has it in the knees. Oh, it does have it in the knees. It has ratchets in the hips and knees, so either way, the Transbots has them nowhere. Nowhere at all. There, I found the joint that I must have been thinking about, this shoulder joint, which you can tighten up, I'm sure, with a screw, but I shouldn't have to. Moving on to Sculpt and Paint, and we'll start from the full frontal view, so to speak. And I honestly, I don't think they're all that much different overall. I mean, they are different, right? But like, if you can get this guy posed better, this guy naturally poses better. I don't feel that one looks all that much better just at a glance overall. The proportions on both are pretty good. I think the chrome detailings help make the Transbots one come alive. Once again, just at an overall view. So I don't feel comfortable saying one looks like exorbitantly better than the other. One looks more cartoon accurate, but that's a different category. I just don't think that there's like a standout winner. I also need to say the Transbots has the repro labels on there, so I won't be counting those accents, obviously. And the Fanstoys is going to take the paint because it just has more paint in general. So the paint category is automatically going to Fanstoys. Now we're just working through the sculpt. Starting with the head sculpts, I don't think that one is necessarily all that much greater than the other. I think the general shape of the Fanstoys is better. The X-Transbots has more sculpted detail. I don't know. They're very, very similar. Not identical, obviously, but I don't think necessarily all that much better. Once again, from the side, I don't think that there's anything necessarily spectacular about either one in terms of being better than the other. They're just sort of blue circle slash squares. Moving on to the torso, once again, like, I think that the Fanstoys looks more cohesive. It looks more put together. It looks more purposeful. I think the X-Transbots has a lot more interesting sculpted detail going on with it. The Fanstoys is obviously painted better. It's going to win the point for that, but sculpt-wise, I don't think it's all that much better. From the front, anyway. From the side, it has to go to the Fanstoys. The X-Transbots is just, you know, completely incomplete, if that makes sense. Plus, the cab is huge and sort of unsightly. That's always been one of the issues that's plagued this figure. So, you know, the chest, torso area is going to go to Fanstoys overall because they tie from the front. Looking at the arm from the front, once again, I don't think that one's a standout winner. I like the proportions of the arm better on the Fanstoys, but I like the extra sculpted detail in the X-Transbots. I don't like the gray plastic breaking up the chrome in the X-Transbots, but they're already taking paint in the Fanstoys department. So, like, I don't know. I don't feel like there's just anything necessarily spectacular about one over the other here. It's about preference, I think, in terms of what you like. It's not like one looks bad and one looks better. But I do like the cannons on the arm better for the Fanstoys, but that's more so about accuracy. So that's going to be obviously an easy win for the category for Fanstoys later. So it's like, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to tie them out. Once again, from the side, similar sort of deal. I like the chrome accent on the Fanstoys. I like the chrome accents on the X-Transbots. Once again, I like the cannon, but that's a preference thing. I like the wheel better on the X-Transbots just because it looks more like part of the arm. But I really like the size of the wheel on the Fanstoys. So it's like, it's just a wash for me. There's things I like about both. Once again, the hips, I like the simplicity of the Fanstoys for what it is, because it still has a little bit of kind of interesting stuff going on with it, with like the bump outs next to the midsection. But I don't like the flap sort of stuff, specifically how it affects the sculpt. Whereas on the X-Transbots, it doesn't seem like quite enough, but I like all the sculpt work. So, tie. Once again, from the side, almost exactly the same thing. The hip skirts bother me aesthetically on the Fanstoys. Sculpted detail, there's not really anything really to write home about. I don't really like the color mix match on the X-Transbot, so tie them out. Looking at the legs, I like the deco better on the silver for Fanstoys, and they both have sculpt work on the thighs. The Fanstoys is more subtle, but it is there. The lower legs, like, I don't like the bump out thing hanging off the side of the X-Transbots, but I like kind of the rest of the sculpt work. But the bump out is just too overwhelming where I have to give it to Fanstoys there. From the side, same kind of thing. Like the tire on the X-Transbots is like they just, you know, obviously it's like they just didn't know what to do with it. It just takes up too much of the composition aesthetically. So the legs go to Fanstoys. From the back, I have to give it to Fanstoys, but not because of where you might think, because the cabs kind of don't look all that different from the back. From the side, the X-Transbots takes the L, but that goes back to the torso area. Looking at all of this, like, it's all that stuff hanging off the back of the calves and how, like, the turn signals are the back of the heels of the feet. Like, it just looks kind of unfinished and kind of unsightly. So from the back, I'll give it to Fanstoys as well. So a few more tied areas than a lot of people, I think, would expect. We have tied heads, so to speak, tied arms, tied pelvis, and a tied for the kind of overall full frontal view, so to speak. But Fanstoys takes the chest and torso area, namely due to how it looks from the side, and Fanstoys takes the lower legs and they tie at the upper legs, mainly because the X-Transbots lower legs just look less finished, even though I like a lot of the sculpt work there. And then from the back, Fanstoys just looks more put together. No denying it, which gives Fanstoys the lead in sculpt. Moving on to articulation, the head for the X-Transbots is on a ball peg. You get up to there, a little bit down, and you get the full swivel, and you get a little bit of confused Stax face. For Fanstoys, you get about the same up, about the same down, a limited swivel with no tilt on the head, so it goes to X-Transbots there. Waist swivel limited with no ab crunch. Waist swivel limited with an ab crunch. The shoulder is on a ball peg. Because of the way it angles, you can get it out to 90 degrees. It's a little bit of a cheat, but I do think that it earns it. It also gets the swivel around and a bit of a reverse butterfly. If you move the tire, you can get out to 90 degrees. Once again, a bit of a cheat, but I think it deserves the point. and then you get 360 around until it butts up against the cab, which I also think ties it out there, but no butterfly. Bicep swivel, bicep swivel. Double jointed elbow for the full run, single jointed elbow for a more limited range. Wrist swivel with the fingers on a base pin knuckle, wrist swivel with the fingers on a base pin knuckle. Universals for hips for the full Van Dam, a little shy of the full Monty. Universals for hips for the full Van Dam and the full Monty. Well, it's not exactly the full Monty, but it is a greater range, to be fair. Thigh swivel, thigh swivel. Single hinge knee that doesn't even get you 90 degrees. Single hinge knee that gets you past 90 degrees. Ankles are on a ball peg. You get a little bit up, a little bit down, and a rocker. Ankle tilt up, slight ankle tilt down, and a more extreme rocker. So they tie at the bicep, wrist, and hands, as well as the thigh swivel. Transbots takes the head due to the tilt and full swivel, the shoulders for the reverse butterfly, and the full ranged elbows. Fanstoys takes the torso because it has the ab crunch, the hips for the wider range of motion, the knees for a much larger range of motion, and the ankles for a wider range of motion, giving Fanstoys the point for 3. In terms of scale, they are pretty much identical in size. My cab isn't squared up on the Transbot, so pardon me. But they are, I mean, literally within like a slice of a millimeter within the same size of one another. So I'm going to tie them out for scale. Moving on to transformation. It's actually one of the better transformations for both companies. Both are pretty straightforward. Both are pretty fun. Both are pretty enjoyable. Both have just the right amount of complexity to kind of keep you entertained, keep you focused, but don't make you frustrated, and have some interesting stuff going on. Honestly, there's some stuff about the tightness of the joints with Fanstoys that kind of get in the way a bit. Honestly, there's some looseness in the joints of the Transbots that kind of get in the way a bit. So there's no real valid winner here. They are both fairly successful in terms of transformation. In terms of alt mode, I'm gonna tie them out as well. The Fanstoys goes for a more cartoon accurate alt mode, and I think it pulls it off successfully. I love how they incorporated the pipes from the arm cannons into the exhaust pipes of the vehicle for that over exaggerated flare of the cartoon looking truck, but I love the realistic looking alt mode of the Transbots. The proportions of the cab seem more true, the extra details in the sides, the hitch details, all that kind of stuff just allow it to look more realistic, and it does what it's trying to do, but so does the Fanstoys. So I'm tying them out for alt mode. Which brings us to price. I'm not sure if these prices are entirely accurate, but they're pretty close. The Transbots, now this is 9 years ago, I think, was going for about 70 bucks. I kind of remember it being 80, but either way, it still wins in comparison to Fanstoys that goes for 120. Now, if we account for inflation, we'll take it 8 years ago. I think it was 8 years ago. So we'll call that 2015, $80. I'll even bump it up 10. And this calculator only goes to 2022, but it only bumps it up to $96, still giving Transbots the point over Fanstoys. Accuracy wise, I mean, I kind of already spoiled it, but I don't think it should come to anybody as any real surprise that Fanstoys takes it. The general shape is more accurate. The cannons on the arm is more accurate. The color scheme is off, obviously. But even with that being stated, the shape of the chest and sculpt thereof and legs, all that stuff is more accurate. It's just a more cartoon accurate piece. I don't think anyone could deny that. All right. Which one do you think looks the best?
The other one on the left.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's a loosey goose. I don't like a loosey goose.
All right, me neither. Thanks. Sorry for interrupting the homework. Which one?
Just kidding.
Which one do you think looks better?
This one.
All right. And
Oh my god. The other one feels better.
okay.
Except for the legs. These legs feel better.
Which one do you think looks the best?
Both don't look great.
You think they both look not great?
That one looks a little better.
Okay. And which one do you think feels the best?
And that one, I like that it's weighted a little more.
This one? Okay. All right. Which one do you think looks the best?
That one.
This one? Okay. And which one feels the best?
This one.
Okay. So you say this one feels the best?
Yeah.
Okay. So they tie in scale, transformation, and alt mode. Transbots takes the gimmicks because it has 2 and Fanstoys doesn't really have any. It takes price because it's just objectively true, no matter how you cut it. Fanstoys takes the accessories because technically it has more. It takes the build because it's built better. The materials because the materials are better. Hardware because it has it. Articulation by a nose. It takes the sculpt. It takes the paint. Of course, it takes the accuracy accuracy, that's what it's aiming for, and it also takes the presence, which when we break it down, it gives Fanstoys the win 9-2 over X Transbots. So a pretty brutal tail whipping. But let's talk about it a bit more and we'll break down some of the nuance as well. And that's that, and I don't really think it should come to anybody as any surprise that the Fanstoys took it. It's, first of all, got the advantage of being 9 years down the line, possibly 8. And it's Fanstoys versus X Transbots, a lot of times Fanstoys takes it. Plus, this is one of Fanstoys' better figures. Better articulation, deco looks good. I've seen better from them, but it looks good. Sculpt looks good. Good, you know, good build, etc., etc. Good transformation, like stuff that this doesn't necessarily always go with Fanstoys. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. But I think the over-under is a positive for Fanstoys, and rightfully so. And I think it reflects kind of how I feel about it. But let's break these categories down a bit more and get into a little bit more of the nuance. So when it comes to the best display, we take into consideration build, sculpt, paint, and presence, which gives Fanstoys the win for the best display piece, which seems pretty accurate to me. For best transformer, we take into consideration build, materials, and transformation. Once again, making the Fanstoys tubes the best transformer available for the character, because it wins build and materials and ties in the transformation. And lastly, the most playable, we take into consideration build, materials, articulation, transformation, and accessories. They tie in transformation, and Fanstoys takes the rest, making it also the most playable. So this is pretty much a wipeout across the board, and rightfully so. It's a good figure, and it's got 8 or 9 years on her. It should do exactly that. That's how you know it's a good release. So bravo, love to see it. And I got mine from Nick the Toy Guy. And with that, I think we can get out of here. I got softball practice to get to. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.